Hello and welcome. You are listening to The Hello You Show. I'm your host, Jessica Rice, and the founder of Jessica Rice Coaching. This show is for ambitious and visionary-minded women leaders and entrepreneurs ready to uplevel their impact and establish their personal brand and unique voice. It's time, ladies, to make our voices heard. Say hello again to the real you. Hello and welcome to the Hello You Show. My name is Jessica Rice and I am your host. Thank you so much for joining me today and welcome to really leaning into this new year, this new 2024 year that we are now slowly but surely finding our way into. And today I really wanted to kind of just share with you. I oftentimes when I'm doing the podcast, I'm not uh, rehearsed in any way. I'm actually just thinking about ideas that come to my mind throughout my conversations with different clients throughout the week, different, colleagues, different coaches, and oftentimes it sparks me thinking about what would be valuable or interesting for someone else to hear about or to share in. So I was really thinking today that I wanted to share about my experience with burnout. And I think it's really important to share it, especially at this time of year when we're really focused on goals and goal setting. And I love goals. I love goal setting. I'm always finding new ways and systems to follow through on my goals. And I think it's really important to also recognize when we're struggling. And so I wanted to share a little bit about my personal story. So when I started or coming up and coaching even more, I was working a full-time job as a manager of engineering. I had a small team that I was leading and I was going through different certifications. That was kind of my beginning introduction to coaching and really kind of where I wanted to take things. I was excited at that time. I still am. But when you discover something new, you have this new vibrancy about you. COVID hit. We went through the pandemic the first year. We started homeschooling my son, obviously. And then we started noticing different things. And so there was this other layer that started to happen. And we started to notice that he was really struggling. We didn't really have that insight or bird's eye view until we started to see him interacting with his teacher through Zoom. So in that process, COVID started kind of moving along. He went back to school part-time. And we really started thinking about what we were going to do. My job was still going really strong. Things had been progressing quite readily with my certification process. And now we really decided that we were going to homeschool him for real, not just through an online class or someone else picking up the curriculum, but really our own school, set it up, and then also, teach him and find ways that where he could flourish. This was a huge challenge in and of itself. And I think that, we don't always realize what we're getting ourselves into, or we only have an inkling of it. And so maybe I'll do another podcast episode of what just homeschooling while working and while pursuing your passions and your dreams really looks like. And if anyone's interested or would like some support, please do reach out to me on any of my social media channels. I would be more than happy to talk with you about that. It's definitely not a journey I think you should go alone. And in that process, though, I felt like things started really picking up. Momentum started picking up. And the whole goal, my dream at some point was to move into coaching, into owning my own business for quite some time. And I just didn't know how, I didn't know when, I didn't know how long it was going to take. And so what seemed like maybe a couple of years took a little bit longer. And I think it's okay. We have to recognize that there is no such thing as an overnight success. It's only what we see that seems like an overnight success. And that's true for all, all roles, all people, all success stories. There's always a struggle in the beginning. And so it started to take quite some time for me. And I just kept pushing forward and really trying to develop that grit that I think Angela Duckworth talks about, in the sense that we have to be able to have some grit and some perseverance and resilience in order to keep pursuing our goals and pushing forward. And so in that process, I just really wasn't paying attention. It was just like, we're just moving, we're just going, we're just doing. And it was almost like I became addicted to, more and more and more. So I'd start adding more. We added in our clothing line and stationery business into that. We started, trying to think about different things that we were really interested in doing. I have a design background, so I wanted to incorporate all of myself. And somewhere in there, things became too much. I also was contract coaching with large corporations. My client load had grown to 30 clients. I was now a director of front end engineering. I was homeschooling my son, and I was actively building my coaching business. And it started to feel like too much. At some point, pressure breaks pipes, and you feel like there's not going to be an area or a way that you can safely or, even realistically continue to move forward without something happening. And I certainly didn't want to see what that would look like. I've already been, sick before in my life, and I've gone over that in other podcasts. So I didn't really want to push my body to another limit that I knew I couldn't do. So in that process, things were kind of nuts. And we went on vacation. I didn't want to go on vacation. We decided to go on vacation. And in that moment, while I was away, I had been dragging my feet. It wasn't a good time. I didn't want to spend any time away from my work, what I was doing, everything I was trying to accomplish. The timing wasn't right. But in that space of vacation, I had clarity. And I think this is really important for us to note sometimes is sometimes the thing that we least want or the thing that we least think we need to do, or it's an inconvenience, can actually bring clarity to our lives and to what it is that we're trying to do. And so while I was gone, I didn't work, I didn't do anything. And I had this moment of clarity. And I think it'd been the first time I'd really spent like full dedicated days to myself and my family. And it was wonderful. And I had forgotten, what that felt like. I had forgotten what it was like to really focus on a singular thing at one time. And so when I came back, it really became clear to me, okay, I'm going to leave my job. My client load has reached a sustainable level. It wasn't where I had other goals. It wasn't exactly where I thought. So it wouldn't be complete one-to-one replacement of my income. You'll never reach one goal without first addressing the things that are happening in your life. And sometimes you're making a choice. And so when we say yes to everything, we are saying no to something. And I had to really sit down and decide, what was I saying no to? And what did I want to say no to? So I came back, put my notice in, and, things started going well. I was excited to finally be making this decision. It was scary, but it was exciting. And I was moving forward on my big dreams, my big goals. I've been working on them for, 5 years, really pushing. And interestingly enough, all of these things started to happen. First, it was wonderful things, great things. I had a lot of sense of closure and a lot of sense of confirmation in relation to my role and really leaving. But then once I left, I right away started diving into things that I wanted to do for my business, things I wanted to really hone, how I wanted our homeschool to be more efficient so that I felt like, we were all thriving and succeeding. And I got sick. And I was so frustrated for the first time. Like, I've been sick and I get frustrated, but I was so frustrated because it was preventing me yet again from doing the thing that I really wanted to do. I was holding a workshop. I even had to end my, it was like a 5-day workshop. I had to end it early, which I hated to have to do that. And I had to force myself to lay in bed and to just deal with being sick, deal with that moment of what that felt like so that I could recover. Again, this was Christmas time. So as a mom, I am, the magic maker for Christmas. And so there was a lot going on in the back of my mind as I was trying to deal with all of that and how we were going to deal with all of the different things. And I wanted to kind of move into the new year with a bang. I wanted things to really start exploding for me so that I could feel justified in my decision. But that's just not how life works sometimes. And when we are facing burnout, that's not what our body is agreeing to either. And sometimes I feel like our body is just like, listen, you're not getting all of the clues here. So we're going to knock you out for a little bit. You're going to be forced to take a break. And then you can start picking back up again. And so that's where I was at. And it was probably a good solid month because once we made it through Christmas, which I felt like was impossible almost, then, it's kind of the new year. There's a lot of pressure on us to start looking at resolutions, how we want to help clients, especially from a coaching perspective, how we want to help clients deal with their goals, their resolutions, and create new strategies around commitment to them. But even for myself, I was frustrated. And I was also starting to feel a little bit down, a little bit depressed. I wasn't really questioning if I made the right choice. I was just frustrated because things weren't moving as fast as I wanted them to. Things weren't going the way I wanted them to. And isn't that so true for life? Isn't it so true that sometimes we're so focused on the small thing, the narrow tunnel vision, that we're missing all the rest? We're missing those pieces. And so I really had to sit there and think about, like, what is going on with me right now? Why am I feeling this way? I should be over the moon. I've finally done what I've been setting out to do for years now. And I realized it was burnout. I had been burned out. I had been on the other side of burnout, which was go, 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 ignore, 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 do, keep going, keep pushing, because you have no choice sometimes. And now that I did, I needed to really lean into that. I needed to lean into myself. I needed to lean into what I was feeling. And it became very clear that it was burnout. It became very clear how debilitating it can be when you're finally sitting in it and recognizing the emotions that are coming up for you, the different feelings, how just tired overall that you are, how, different emotions, different depression, you're happy, but yet there's this kind of feeling inside. And I think I had to sit and process all of these emotions, all of the years that I had just been running every single day, minute to minute, moment to moment, trying to juggle meeting after meeting, homeschool lessons, all of the things that we do sometimes. And we forget to really look inside at ourselves. Now, I'm going to say this honestly as a coach, because it's easier for coaches to coach someone else than it is sometimes to coach ourselves. And even though we're introspective, we're still human. We still struggle with the same things that everyone else does. And even though I have the tools and the techniques and the tips, sometimes we are blind to ourselves. And so it's even more important that we really do pause, that we really think about what it is. And so I did. I spent some time really leaning in, really thinking about who I wanted to be. How did I really want to show up? I finally am able to. I didn't have an excuse of my job, of trying to juggle everything. And I realized that what was bothering me. that I was the one who was in my own way. And there was nothing else stopping me or that I could use as a reason to not keep moving forward. And so once I settled into that and really settled into being okay with not running 100 miles an hour, with not trying to fill every moment of my day, and really try to spend some time organizing, how do I want to spend my days? How do I want my life to look? What kind of mom do I really want to be? How do I really want to show up and be present? Then it started to shift. And so for really the third time in my life, because there's 3 times right now that I have had gone through recovery, this is my third. I started to find myself yet again. And I started to lean into some of those things that I loved doing for such a long time. And then because of being busy, because of life, because of stress, I actually stopped enjoying them. So cooking is one of my big passions. I've always loved cooking. I used to want to go to culinary school. That's a whole nother story. Um, but I love cooking for my family. I just love cooking for me, even just to create something. It's a wonderful creative outlet for me. And yet I still feel like I'm also accomplishing something at the same time. It probably tells you a little bit about something in my personality. So, I started cooking again for the love of it, making different things, finding different recipes, just really getting into it. Where for a long time, that which I enjoyed, I had stopped enjoying because it was, yet another thing I had to take care of. It became a burden instead of a joy. And so that started to shift for me. And I started to recognize, like, oh, I can actually be the mom that I've always wanted to be. I can actually not be stressed out. I can actually not be trying to do too many things at one time. I can just be me. And and now I have this focus on the thing I've been working towards and for 5 years. Sometimes when we're going after a goal, it does take a lot of work. We do have to make some sacrifices, and then it starts to come through. But there's a degree of unlearning that needs to take place. The habits that we start to develop in our jobs, in different types of roles, in different types of communications with different people has to shift and change. And it can take a little bit of time to recognize, especially with our nervous system. Operating in such a manner every single day, it becomes quite habitual. And so it has to take deliberate action, deliberate effort to really think about it and start undoing some of that. And so that's where I started to realize, oh, okay, this is what's happening. This is what the other side of burnout feels like. And I've never been on the other side. I've never actually been able to fully recover. I just may have loosely recovered because I got sick or something had happened, and then I'd go right back into it again. And this idea that I didn't have to, and that I had, consciously made a decision to not continue down that path, even though it wasn't quite, perfect, was liberating. And I think sometimes when we set goals for ourselves, we have like this vision or this idea or this dream of what that's going to look like. But because it hasn't fully happened yet, we can't, fully know what that will feel like fully. And I think I was surprised that I wasn't more just excited and joyful. And that was another thing that I recognized within myself. I had spent years always having kind of something. Anytime someone asked me how I was doing, oh, I'm great. How's your job? Well, it's okay. It's my job, but I'm really loving this, what I'm doing over here. I couldn't really just be happy. I never felt happy because there was this kind of piece of me that, it was holding me back to a certain extent. And I recognize that now I actually can be. I can be fully joyful in the most sincere way. And that was something that was very new for me too. It's kind of one of those things that you work really hard to attain or achieve something, but you still don't really know what it feels like. And it really dawned on me like, wow, I can decide my life. I can decide how I show up. I can decide my schedule. I have power and I can decide every single day. And the only thing that it would be stopping me is me. And on one hand, that's terrifying because you don't have anyone else to blame it on, to turn to put it on. And on the other side, it's beautiful and liberating and empowering. And I guess I wanted to share all of this because if you have felt ever like you wanted to pursue a goal, a passion, a dream, and you're just not really sure what that requires or what that looks like or how that feels, I was hoping, on one hand, it gives you a sense of realism, and on the other hand, it gives you a sense of hope. It doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes we do have to make a hard decision, but we're making it for ourselves. We decide what we want. We decide our lives. We decide how we show up. And if we're not able to, or if something else keeps impacting us, then it's our responsibility to recognize and look within and realize that maybe we need to make a shift. And it might be uncomfortable. It might not be exactly how we imagined it, but we have to start thinking about what is that going to look like for me? And well, how do I really want to live? And that's where we find power and truth and authenticity, when we can be wholly showing up as ourselves and owning it. So hopefully this was helpful for you. I would really love to hear in the comments if this is something that resonated for you, if you found this story insightful, if you've gone through burnout or are going through it and are looking for ways to get through it, to cope, to come out the other side. All of these things. Make sure you check out the poll within Spotify exclusively so that you can participate and be a part of the conversation. And let me know in the DMs. You can find me on Jessica Rice Coaching, or you can look up the Hello You Show and find me. I would love to know, how do you handle pursuing your passions? And have you been experiencing burnout? And what is it that you're doing to help yourself find ways to get through it? All right, join me next time. We're going to have an amazing talk. I can't share much more about it, but you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be phenomenal, and I look forward to sharing it with you. So see you next Tuesday, and until then, continue to stay true to you and be authentic.